So too much or too little humidity contributes to a number of health problems. Whether it's drying out your sinuses, whether it's increasing the mold, bacteria, and virus growth in the house, it can do a tremendous amount of different things that are going to affect your health, which is why you want to regulate the humidity. Now, for most markets here in the Southwest, Western United States, Northern United States, you need to add humidity back into the air, especially in the winter. Because if you're using natural gas to heat your house, the natural gas is actually going to remove humidity from the air as it burns, which is going to make your house even drier. One of the fantastic things is here in Utah, the average humidity indoors during the middle of winter is generally far lower than the average humidity in the Sahara Desert. Now, most people don't realize this, but humidifiers actually have to be sized for your house. That's why you've probably all met somebody who had a humidifier and said, "Oh, the dang thing never worked, I never noticed a difference." It's because it was done wrong. You see it a lot when people go to the hardware store and they buy their own humidifier and they put it on, and it's only built to do an 800 square foot house, and they're putting it on a 4,000 square foot house and they're going, why doesn't this work? It's because they don't know what they're doing. Now, there are three main types of humidifiers that most people think about. Obviously, well, 4 if you count the room humidifiers. But generally they don't put enough humidity into the house to actually make a difference. It may help you when you're sick if you have one right next to your bed, but it doesn't increase the humidity levels throughout the home. So you have 3 main types of actual humidifiers that are going to connect and be a whole house humidifier. The first one's called a bypass humidifier. It's one that connects to the furnace and uses the heat from the furnace in order to evaporate the water and add humidity into the house. Now, it works really well. The problem is it only runs when the furnace is running. So if it's a mild day and your furnace isn't running very much, then the humidifier isn't running very much, and it doesn't put as much humidity into the air. Now, the next one is called a powered humidifier, which is actually this one here. It has its own fan and everything else connected to it, and it can push out air as well so that it can provide more humidity even when the furnace isn't running, especially if you're using a high efficiency motor and you're letting the motor run. It can help constantly humidify the air. Now, that being said, there's a third option called a steam humidifier. Now, if you have a medical condition or something like that, steam works out really, really well. When my first son was born, because both my kids were born premature, the doctor warned me they were going to develop medical conditions. They were probably going to have asthma and allergies, and they were probably going to be sensitive to certain things. Well, luckily, because I filtered the air and everything else, they never had asthma and allergies. But my son actually developed eczema, and so his skin would dry out tremendously at random times in the year, and it would hurt and it would just feel terrible. So I put a steam humidifier in my house so that year round, no matter how hot it was, no matter how cold it was, I could keep the humidity at a very specific level inside of my home. And since I've done it, his skin has never dried out. He's never had a problem. Even though he goes to school for 7-8 hours a day and comes home, because the air inside of our house is so beneficial, he doesn't have any problems. And that's just one of the many examples of how the right amount of humidity can actually affect your health. I know that personally I had respiratory problems quite commonly, especially moving from a wet climate into a dry climate like this. And the humidifier helped out tremendously, which makes it so that I can actually work out a little bit more. Not saying that that's all that much yet, but it's still very beneficial.